Now, Mike, you're from Canada,
Hmm.
but you lived in America for a good period of time.
Right.
How would you compare the two countries?
Well, the most obvious difference is Canada's a lot colder, I think, than the United States in general. That's because we're north of the US. But culturally, I think that the US has many more culturally different areas within the country than Canada does. Canada as a culture, even though it's different from east to west, for example, people in Atlantic Canada are quite different from, let's say, Ontario or Quebec, different from the West Coast. But in the US, there are many more of those sort of cultural pockets. Like New York, for example, is very different from Florida, which is very different from Louisiana or Georgia, which is very different from Texas, of course. And all of those are very different from California. And all of those, again, are very different from the northwest part of the U.S., Seattle and that area. So the U.S. has many, many more sort of culturally diverse areas, very unique. And I think one significant difference between Canada and the U.S. Another difference is Canada is obviously one thing that many tourists point to as a reason for going. Canada is safer than the U.S. Again, I think partly because of gun laws and things like that. But just in general, I think the history of Canada was a lot less, I guess, there was no revolution really in Canada and there was in the U.S. So I think the roots are a little bit more subdued, let's say. So that makes a difference culturally. However, I think that because Canada is more safe, it's also more boring than the U.S. So the U.S., it's maybe a little bit riskier, but it's a lot more fun. In Canada, it's safer, but again, more boring.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, I don't know. I haven't been to Canada, but I would like to go.
You definitely come up and visit, and then you'll know why you enjoy the States so much.
I'm not so sure about that.